Policy and Rights here at News Media Radio. I'm your host, Michael Clogs. Okay, so we're going to hear from Mark Carney today. And hey, this is the importance of Mark Carney speaking to the press from Parliament Hill. He is speaking about, mostly he is speaking about measures to protect Canadian steel and aluminum industries. As we know, that Donald Trump has escalated some ridiculous and illegal amount of tariff to be placed on Canadian steel products. He is also placing, at the same time, also aluminum products. Well, one of the issues is that most of the North American aluminum mines exist in Canadian territories. So Donald Trump claims that he doesn't need aluminum from Canada, that America has its own aluminum. Well, that's not exactly true. He does actually need Canadian aluminum steel products. So Mr. Carney is announcing some measures to protect those products, to protect those industries from the tariffs, and help keep all of those workers with jobs, and help keep the industry moving smoothly. Okay, so Mr. Carney is also joined by the Ministers of Finance and the Minister of Industry, as well as the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, as he makes his announcement about him protecting the steel and aluminum for Canada. This is also coming just a couple of days after the end of the G7 summit in Alberta. If we also remember correctly, when there were some announcements about Iran and Israel, and Mr. Trump actually left the talks early before Mr. Carney and him could actually have some serious considerations about what it is they're going to talk about to find a really good financial path and trade deal for both the United States and Canada. Mr. Carney also said in a interview at the end of the G7 summit that there was a active and valid trade deal between the U.S. and Canada with the USMCA. So we're also going to hear today about Israel and Palestine. There is a recording from the Human Rights Commission and inquiries into what is actually going on with the judicial end of holding people accountable for war crimes and for withdrawing humanitarian aid and trying to starve people until they die off, limiting and stealing and destruction of cultural items that would help future generations identify with being Palestinian. All of these things are mounting up, and there is a serious discussion about who is accountable and how not only units can be held accountable, military units can be held accountable, that individuals can also be held accountable for crimes against humanity and war crimes. For example, they are going to discuss this a little bit further, that the happening where Israeli citizens were held as hostages by the Hamas constitutes a war crime, that and a crime against humanity. And with all that being said, they want to hold each individual person accountable for their crimes. There are also discussion about some of the people that have been arrested, and they don't even know how many people Israel is holding accountable for such crimes, because there hasn't been any due process put forth to, or trials to put forth in order to figure out the evidence of each individual person as they had a part in the holding of Israeli citizens hostage during that time period from it was almost 2 years. Along with that, they have named individual units that could be held, military units that could be held accountable for the destruction of civilian sites in Gaza by the Israeli defense forces. When they talk about accountability, they want to make sure that people understand that not only could your military unit be held responsible, but you personally could be held responsible in certain acts. And they want to make sure that for these war crimes that people are held responsible, and that they do suffer some consequences, and not just some military. In some cases, some military tribunals have been held, and Israel has swept the results of those under the rug, rather than making it evident what the consequences were to soldiers who have committed such war crimes, or that have done things, violence against women and civilians, or with withdrawing of humanitarian aid, such as food and clean water. So this commission wants to make sure that that these people who commit these acts are treated and shown to be criminals in a humanitarian way. So we're going to hear about that in this next episode, and we're going to also hear about from the United Nations press floor about ongoing military actions between Iran and Israel, as well as some other things that have come up between Palestine and Israel again. More recent actions, and what the United Nations themselves are trying to do to push forward with humanitarian effort, so that all parties have their rights supported, and all parties are acting within the rules of international law. So with that, why don't we get started with hearing from Mr. Carney as he's trying to protect Canadian industry.